Hi everybody, my name is Jeremy, this is Red Means Recording, and today I thought it'd be kind of fun just to take a look at a little small system that I built to have fun with a couple new modules that I got. Those being the Kickain from Knobula and the Freak Manifold Filter from Vult. Both of these are really, really cool. I originally threw them in just this pod and was actually just like blowing my ears out having a good time because they can get pretty nasty together in a good way. And then I was like, okay, well, let me just make this a little bit bigger, add the second pod so I could have the architect and a little bit more modulation and some envelope generators. And then I was like, well, why don't I just show this to people? Why? Because it's fun. That's why. So we're going to start off with a Kickain and listen to it. It's a kick drum module that has a input for your mix and it sidechains, which is really, really cool. It's actually a great sounding kick, and there's a couple different sidechain modes, and let's just get into how it sounds. So I've specifically kept it very, very low in the mix. I'm going to start bringing up the settings for it. So let's start with some drive. Wonderful. Wonderful. So it's kind of a square wave-ish kind of thing. Let's go ahead and bring up some click. A little transient right there, which is really, really nice. Now, it sounds really flat, right? Really kind of like, I don't know, doesn't really sound like a kick. And that's because kick drums have a bend to them, like a pitch bend to them. So there we go. And some punch. There we go. Now that sounds like a kick. You're hearing a tiny bit of the Osiris through the Freak right now, but not a ton. So we have decay, can get real long. And this thing can do like mean 808 sort of trap style bass sounds, as you can hear right now. Listen to that. Like, it's got a 1 volt per octave input, so we can actually treat this like a really nasty sine wave bass. Or square wave bass if you want. So don't sleep on it in that respect. There we go. It's a nice sounding kick, right? Attack. Rolls off some of that initial. And then we have a reverb. Now, I have thoughts about this reverb. I personally think it's a little too low focused. I understand why it's like this, because that sort of like, I don't know, big room, dark techno sound has a really dark reverb in it. But the reverb doesn't sidechain, and it just kind of takes up the mix in a kind of a nasty way. Like, if this was a little bit more high focused, or if the reverb sidechained, you could have an immediate sort of like techno kick and bass line. You get that reflex reverb, which is really, really nice, but it doesn't. So let's talk about the sidechain. I'm going to bring in our Osiris right here. It's being triggered and manipulated by the architect. Really, really simple. It's just a sine wave right now. Turn the depth of this down. We'll get to the Freak in just a little bit. So there's a bass line. Now, sidechain is when the sound ducks around the kick, and built into this is a sidechain circuit, which is honestly pretty cool. So let's start bringing up the depth. I'm going to keep it on normal mode for right now. And this is sort of a classic. Hear how it's ducking? Here, I'll turn the kick drum all the way down so you can hear this. Hear that? Now, sidechain seems to be affected by the decay of the kick drum, but the issue with this is you don't have like direct control over the length of the sidechain. And for me, when I'm sidechaining, like in Ableton, for instance, I set up a compressor. I send the kick in as a sidechain trigger for the threshold. I turn the attack all the way down, which means the compressor immediately kicks in when the kick drum hits, and then I adjust the release of the compressor into a musical relationship with the tempo. So I want it to sort of pump in a very specific way. Since the decay and the sidechain are directly linked to each other here, you don't have that level of control. And I find that, you know, I'm going to have way too long a kick drum in order to get that relationship between the tempo that I'm currently at and the pumping of the sidechain. It's not my favorite thing in the world. I think the sidechain hits a little too fast. Let's go ahead and listen to that again. See how it's just like in and out really, really quick? Now, we can mitigate that a little bit by changing the mode of the sidechain to spectral. So let's do that. Listen to the difference. So what this does is actually pays attention to the frequency content of the incoming signal and gets rid of the lows, it sounds like, as opposed to everything. So here's normal. Hear that very distinct volume drop. And there's spectral, that's spectral too, which is much more kind to the high frequencies, which is kind of cool. I liked spectral 1. So if I had to, make one feature request for this device, it would be that we had control somehow over the length of the sidechain release, so that we could really dial in that very specific sort of French house pump that we associate with heavy sidechaining. So a couple other things to note here. We do have a 1 volt per octave in, and we have an accent in. So what I've been doing is just give it a little accent pattern. You can see that now we're getting a little pattern on the trigger there for the accent. That'll come into play later. I'm basically going to install a new rhythm on top of this with the accent and with this tiny little bit of 16th note gate. So bring this back down again. Let's listen to what happens when I put this into the 1 volt per octave. Take it out. Do you hear that rhythm? It's coming from a very, very tiny little gate I have coming out of Pamela's new workout. So I just thought it'd be kind of fun to install a little extra rhythm, because obviously our system here is pretty small, and I just kind of wanted to have a little bit more stuff going on. We can turn that down. There we go. Okay. Well, that's the Kickain. We'll obviously be messing around with it a bit more, but I want to talk about this Freak filter. So let's listen to just what's coming out of the Osiris. Actually, get rid of that 1 volt per octave for right now. So there's a sine wave. The reason that I am making this very clear is because the Freak filter is very transformative in some modes, and we will be returning to sine wave quite a bit, just so we can really hear how, frankly, batshit this filter is. So a little bit of history with this thing, or a little bit of background with this thing. As far as I know, Vult, the company that makes this, has been making VCV-Rack modules for a while. And VCV-Rack being the free modular environment that you can use and download on your computer, which is amazing. They have this filter, and they have a couple other modules, including something called Braids, which is their take on braids, mutable instrument sprays, that actually allows you to run 2 braids at once. And you can flash this with Braids if you want to, but I'm never going to do that because the filter here is amazing. And it's not just one filter. It's 18 different models. That number might be wrong. It's a bunch. And we're going to go through a bunch of them to hear how transformative filters can be on an otherwise kind of normal signal. Left and right inputs, left and right outputs. This thing can run in stereo, but it can also run in, I believe, parallel. I can't remember if it runs in series. That'd be awesome too. But you can have 2 different filters running at once, as far as I know. So let's start listening to this thing. I'm going to hit play again. And I'm going to give ourselves a little bit of saw wave. Because we need something for the filter to bite onto. So the way that this is going to work is that I can change the filter type by hitting the left button here, and I can change between different modes within that filter on the right. And some modes have, and some filters have things like low pass, high pass, and band pass, and some of them have much more exotic modes. So let's bring the cutoff down. We are currently on a Steiner Parker model called Tangents. We have a resonance control, and this thing will self-oscillate. It's so good sounding. I cannot get over how disgusting this filter can get. Drive about noon should be around neutral. If we turn it all the way down, we're not going to hear anything, but we can also overdrive it. And each filter will respond slightly differently. I have some envelopes over here that are being triggered with the trigger that's triggering our Osiris. So let's go ahead and turn the resonance down, turn the cutoff down, and start modulating this beast. I'm going to turn up A and B, which are the individual inputs for the frequency modulation of the filters on the left and right side. There also is one in the middle, but let's go ahead and just turn these up. Already we have such a great gnarly bass sound. Because it's currently working in stereo mode, we can have a lot of fun with this stereo feel there. Isn't that great? Let's change to high pass mode. I don't use high-pass filters a lot, honestly, but this thing has really great sounding high-pass filters, and I have found myself... Oh, God, listen to that. Listen how colorful that is. And then we have a bandpass, which has that same... That just sounds so good. I can't describe what exactly I'm loving about that, but it's very, very colorful compared to some other filters that I have. All right, next up. There's a second mode of tangents. Second model, excuse me. Third model. So each one of these is going to have a little bit of different character. I'm not going to stick around on all of these just because I want to get some of the more weird ones. Here's a ladder filter. What does that sound like to you? That sounds like a 303 to me. Oh my God. That is absolutely filthy. Screaming just like you want a filter to. 18 dB, 12 dB, and 6 dB. Let's remind ourselves what this sounds like, by the way. It sounds like that. Filters are amazing in how they transform things. Next up, a Vactral. I'm going to skip the low pass gates because I don't think I have the right sort of settings for them to make them really shine, but there are at least 2 modes of low pass gates in here, which I think is super, super cool. Next up, a notch filter. So a notch is just a little, hey, come back here. A notch is just takes a little bit out right in the middle. We have a low-pass version of this and a high-pass. Oh, this is like a poly box? This thing gets absolutely disgusting. Polybox filters are extremely popular for their color. cyberpunky, you know, like that's what I love about this. This is why I wanted to show it off, because like if you're just looking for a really colorful combination of sound that just can get really, really amazing, the Osiris plus the Freak is something that I absolutely love. I think it's one of the coolest things I've ever heard. Got a bandpass version of that same thing. All right, next up, an unstable bandpass filter, unstable low-pass filter. Let's go ahead and change up our pattern a little bit here, just so we can have a little bit of variety. Look at that, like, little tiny bit of like, wow, wow. There's just this really, really techie sound to this that I absolutely love. I do have my attacks all the way down. Yeah, that's very cool. That's a low pass. There's a high pass. And a band pass. Do you hear that, like, tiny bit of attack? I don't have any over here. It has a really nasty character, like, I mean, it is unstable. Fuck yes. I have the, what do you call it? The IntelliGel tetrapad coming out with a saw wave gate going into the middle cutoff frequency. So we have actually 3 separate cutoff frequency things. And the thing that I really appreciate about this is it seems as if it responds to 0 to 5. I'm not 100% sure what's coming out of our peak here, but a lot of filters expect like 0 to 10 and makes it impossible to open it up all the way. So that's a huge win for the Freak. Next up, a stable filter. I'm gonna skip that. Oh, res comb. This thing is awesome. All right, let me turn down all the modulation. So this is a comb filter. This is where we start getting interesting. First of all, that sounds amazing. There's feedback. Now, tell me, if that doesn't make you happy, I don't know what to do with you. That's back to a saw wave. Let's put this on noise, because noise and this comb filter are pretty amazing. Isn't that fucking cool? Let's remind ourselves what our sound over here sounds like. It's a little bit of noise, baby. There's also a negative version of it. Next up, MS-20 style filter. This thing you gotta be careful with. It screams, starting at half res. So let's go ahead and we are on the high pass. Let's go to the low pass. Everyone should have an MS-20 style filter in their kit. And honestly, I think this one sounds better than the IntelliGel one. Don't tell IntelliGel. When you get highly resonant filters, you can get them to kind of like pluck a little bit, which is really cool. There it is. So that's in high pass mode. It's really nice to use filters as an additional percussion thing. As you can hear, it goes right along with the kick, right? It's these little moments here where things are just like incredibly complex sounding and cool sounding that I wanted to show this to you because of. I just love how wild this sounds. That's just a sine wave back. Next up, Boomstick. This is called a Salon key filter. I don't know anything about this one, so I'm going to go ahead and probably skip it. I want to get to some of the weirder stuff. All right, here we go. So we have to remind ourselves that this is a sine wave coming out of this, right? This is a distortion built into it. And you'll see that when I turn the drive all the way down here, it actually doesn't get rid of the sound like it does on the other ones. So we have now a fold, distort, and saturate. So sine wave. Let's go ahead and turn down all of the modulation because now it's not doing filter stuff. It's doing saturation. All right, let's listen to this thing. Wave folder, saturate, and distortion. Remember, this is a sine wave. And of course, these can be modulated. Pretty neat, right? But things get nastier when we switch the mode for this one, because now we have a bit crusher and things will never be the same. This bit crusher is absolutely amazing. This is still a sine wave we're working with here, remember? God, yes. I love it. I love it so much. Next up is a flip-flop octaver. I'm not going to play with that because I don't really understand how it works. This is... Let's go ahead and... Here we go. This is a DJ-style filter. So for those of you who ever DJ'd, you probably got on a mixer that had a filter that went... It's very classic on the Pioneers. Goes low on one side and high pass on the other side. And what this allows you to do is just kind of like bring the sound in and out. This isn't going full high pass. I'm not 100% sure why. Let's change the mode. Oh, it's just, here we go. There we go. So low pass on one side, high pass on the other. It's like a performance control. Very, very useful. Okay, a couple more distortion models. Go ahead and switch up our kick again. Okay, this is called Flame. It's a couple different things in here working with a cylinder model. Back to our sine wave. We have dry wet, 100% wet for us, please. We have volume, and then fuel. Very nice. Next one. This is the rodent distortion. Same controls. Pretty nice, right? Here's cylinder again. Next up, a vowel resonator. Okay, so I'm just gonna pause for a second. We've had this going for a long time. So a vowel filter, there's a lot of different modes on this. It's a resonator, right? So it's gonna pass a signal through. We're actually gonna switch it over to noise for this. And it's going to move through vowels. So I'm gonna turn everything down and we'll just listen to it real quick. Hear that? Aye, aye, aye. That's pretty cool, right? We have all different kinds of vowels. Here's an OE. More resonance, the more it is resonated. VI, OE, and then back to the beginning. So, pretty dope that you have access to that. Nitrous low-pass acid nitrous low-pass acid filter. Let's go ahead and turn this back down. Turn this back down here. So we're back to our saw wave. There's that acid squelch. Get a little bit of attack. So you can hear that wow, wow. Do you see like how much we're getting out of this? Like a simple sound has been changed in all of these like pretty recognizable ways. It's all filter. Like filters are more important in some cases than the source, because mostly we've just been using this saw wave out of here. And the filter is what's making it colorful. The other thing I like about the Freak is that different filter modes have different takes on the full resonance. Obviously the MS-20 mode got like super screamy real fast, but this one has a really nice dialed in resonance for the type of sound that we want to use. Wolf. I love Wolf so much. Go back to our other kick drum. This is a wave shaper. So turn this down. This thing can get really, really nasty. So here's our saw wave. It's like just the crunchiest stereo distortion you've ever heard. So if you need a wave shaper, there's one in here too. And we're back to tangents. We did it. thank you so much for sticking around for this like 30-minute video where we listened to a filter. I hope it was fun for you. I don't normally do these kind of like just like very, very stripped down rack videos for this channel, but I really wanted to show off the transformative nature of Freak, and also, you know, obviously show off Kickain, because I know it's kind of a new module and some people are probably curious about it. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you go and play with your filters now, because they're good. Thanks for watching. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording. I'm an ASMR channel now. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.